Welcome back, everybody, to Gringos Liberados. It's Split 2 time. 2024 rolls on. My name is Trajan. I'm joined by RMC and 4y4 for this first episode here in the second split. I personally have had a pretty good offseason. My flat is currently a bit of a construction site. Our landlords decided to randomly put new floors in, so we were like, well, we can't stop you. So that's happening.
Nothing's coming out of. It's not coming out of your checkbook, just your peace of mind, right?
No, but there are ants coming out of the floor, which is good.
Which hopefully is why they wanted to make
maybe they'll put a new floor in and the ants will stop coming out of the floor. This is the problems that we deal with, sadly, on the ground floor of any building. But how are you guys off seasons going? RMC, how is the summer debuting over there?
Man, I cannot wait for the season to start. Off-season CBLOL wise has not been great. I mean, MSI happened. We'll talk about that. I kind of don't want to.
Yeah, we'll address that.
The best part of every CBLOL offseason, which we are also going to address, is the roster moves, and that's been kind of fun.
Yeah,
not as explosive as some off seasons, but it's been pretty fun.
There was
some huge moves.
Yeah, higher caliber, fewer volume,
nuclear bomb that was dropped.
Yeah.
Hey man, some might argue too. There are some old names coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
So that's been good, I guess. It mitigates MSI a little bit. Personally, it's been good. Been doing a lot of CBLOL stuff. Shout out to Hawk, especially Hawk and Grapes. Hawk from CBLOL's broadcast actually raised a GoFundMe to cover collegiate here in NA. So they are
and raised almost six figures. Quite
a based GoFundMe that actually paid off, which we love to see, that there is that much energy behind it that they can go, we actually do want this happen enough to raise that much money for it to happen. That's the energy we want.
That a bunch of people who justifiably complain that the esports industry is so financially effed that the three of us have full-time jobs outside of esports because of that unfortunate reality, which allows us to do things like this. And also, but people in that industry dumped their money into a project like that. Right.
And we got to get involved with it for
so much to dice.
Yeah.
I did a couple round of 16 games. It was a blast. It's got, it is the most CBLOL-esque region in NA or league in NA because no, seriously, there's so much personality there. And that's half the reason why it's fun. I mean, in any sport, right? In any sport, in any competition, what do you gravitate towards? What do you sell? You sell personalities, you sell stories, right? That's what gets eyeballs, right? Yeah, and then CBLOL has that in abundance. And it was a joy to get to be a part of that.
This is why we got to put the academies together, guys, okay? They're already spiritually brothers, right? Let's just put them together, multiply the CBLOL energy with the CLOL energy, and then...
I want to see Curdy versus Surdy. I want to see Curdy versus Denethor. That's the shit that I want to see.
There's
going
to
be some spice. Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so... now that we've gotten some positive energy going, we can bring it down again, okay? We can really go into the depths before we then exit that trench, okay? We started up here, we're going down here, we're going to go right back up after this. Let's talk about MSI, everybody. Loud arrived, went to MSI. Before games, we were hearing, obviously, a fresh round of scrim memery, which was, according to people there, it was going all right. It was going fine against Western teams. They were having decent results, which I'm not surprised by, because the Loud that we see win championships in the CBLOL could easily smoke over half of LCS and LEC, and I still believe that. Those regions are not in a great place right now. And we had good reason to be comfortable with the draw. Right, we had the group with Fnatic and with GAM. We could go for some revenge against GAM, and then Top, which is historically the chokiest of Eastern teams at International.
The draw was so blessed.
It was. I feel like we often get blessed draws, I'll be honest, guys. I feel like we've been very lucky with draws for years. and it's not... we've not capitalized, perhaps, on that. Did we win a game? I don't remember.
We won one game. Yeah.
We did.
We did.
And for 1 hour, it was so hype. For 1 hour, we were so Barack, and then it was just Jover.
They just
Jover.
absolutely smoked Cam in that. And it's getting to the point now where I keep trying to cheer for Brazil. I should have made a loud TSD instead of a pain TSD video because, like, even as a pain fan, like this is getting painful to watch. Like
it sucks.
I don't even know, man. And the sickest part for me is that Loud keeps giving us hope. Like they lost 0-2 to Top Esports, but they actually looked competitive and they were like, hey. Okay, Top Esports is one of the best teams, but we put up a fight. That means we should smoke everyone else, right? And then, as you guys mentioned, it's a GAM with subs coming in. Like this is a GAM in a broken region.
The region's imploded. It's wreckage.
The region
just
BCS. Shit itself.
We're up against Fnatic. LEC's been struggling. Noah, their AD carry, I think, has come out and said that he was struggling so much with pressure and anxiety. Like there is no excuse for us not to make it out of this group. Like not winning it, fine, but not making it out, like I don't know. We talk about Top as like chokers, well, Loud has mentioned Top that. I think Loud were the biggest chokers in this group, bar none.
No, relative to expectations, I think so. And I mean, you hate to. It sucks because you can only like. I feel like when we get on here and talk about MS, like outside of the games, right? Like, and because games you can dissect. We've watched enough League of Legends at this point, but like it. I just feel like every time we come on here, we almost play amateur psychologist, and that's kind of what Twitter does as well. And that's like the narrative. But again, it's like all we can kind of do. And like, but I think it feels like, and I'm probably just cherry picking some performances that my brain remembers. When there is something to play for, things fall apart. When Brazil, its players, its very emotional gamers go up against a team with nothing to lose that they weren't expected to win. You see that. You play free, you play lose, right? No one is expecting them to do anything against Top. They looked all right. I think back to 2020. That INTZ team that we sent to Worlds in 2020 was objectively not the best team in Brazil. They beat Pain in that final 3-1, but anyone would have told you they were not the better team. Pain should have won that, and they won the next split with the same roster. I think they ran back. That was Croc, that was Tinones and Robo, because of course it was, because they are eternal. But that was the year that Ty TP'd onto a ward right in front of him. And got ulted the ward exactly. Like,
huge plays.
And then when they were eliminated, they beat Team Liquid. When they were 0-3, already out of that play-in group with nothing to play for, Team Liquid fighting for their lives, they went in there and beat the brakes off Team Liquid. A very good Team Liquid team.
I remember that as a Team Liquid fan. Embarrassing.
That was tough. That sucked. That was a 0-win scenario for me because I'm like, well, okay, Brazil's already eliminated. And they're just standing in the way of North America, and now no one wins.
And now everyone's out. Great, thanks.
I mean, same thing with the 2014 Kaboom roster, right? When they beat Alliance,
when they beat Alliance, they were already eliminated. They were 0-5.
And then Tinones, without pressure, just like absolutely popped off.
They're just day ruiners.
2016, play against EDG, right? The greatest upset Brazil ever pulled. No one expected them to do against the number one Chinese team. They did that, and then they got the snot beat out of them for 5 games. It's unfortunate. It sucks.
It's tough. And before this, I think it's fair. I don't know if I expected anything to change. This was my pitch between last year and this year that, like, if we keep sending Loud, nothing's going to change because Loud doesn't change, right? And then every time we get there, I still feel like maybe something's different. Maybe it's a good group. Maybe the meta is different. Maybe it can force something new to happen. And new things don't happen, right? So I think it just feels like, once again, the region is still under the iron fist of Loud, this Loud roster, and it's just we're still on the journey. I thought last split might have been the destination. It was not the case. Still on the journey of this era of the CBLOL, which is the Loud Dynasty. So we could focus a little bit on some individual performances just a little bit. I thought Robo and Tinones had a very good tournament overall, especially compared to last time when Tinones had a abominable tournament. I think he had a very bad MSI Worlds. I thought there was some just truly uncharacteristically bad play from him. But in MSI, I was never thinking like this guy is playing like he's lost or he's nervous or like that he was playing confidently. There were some mechanical misplays, but I think there was a lot of limit testing by kind of everybody in this tournament the whole time. So I think they were going for exciting plays, and they were generally good ideas. And I thought Robo was much more confident and much more usable in lane, in some pretty tough top lane matchups, and Titans as well. So I thought they did better than in the past. I was happy with their performances. I thought the bot lane then had some uncharacteristic flubs, at least on Root's part. Whereas before they were like the, you know, it's like a Jinx Aphelios meta kind of thing, Zarya Aphelios, and Root was having massive games to bring us some of the wins. We didn't see that this time around. Is that because they were giving him Senna every game? Maybe.
See, that was my question, because we didn't see Root being like the Senna player in regular season or in playoffs.
Exactly.
Right? I don't know what happened. I don't know whose call it was to just put him in Senna duty, but it obviously wasn't working, and we refused to fix it. Like, guys, look, Root's one of our best players internationally. He doesn't choke, and even his mechanical play of Senna, I didn't think anything was necessarily wrong with it. He just wasn't great on the Senna pick. But Senna itself is not going to be that champion that's going to be able to 1v5 and carry and win you the game. That's not how Senna works. So if you've got one of your best players internationally and you put him on a champ that has no impact, what the hell do you want him to do? Like, I just don't know.
And
I don't want to say it's Stardust, like, because I know players have a lot of input on what they want to play. But whoever's making that call to just play Senna nonstop, that's not okay.
I don't know if it's just putting too much weight perhaps on denying it from Jackie Love potentially, who I know had big Senna performances, and there was a lot of other bot laners that were having big Senna games, and I don't know if they were like, well, we can take this and be fine, and it functions as another ban of a very impactful pick from Eastern teams. I don't know, but when things like Zeri and stuff are still playable in the meta is surprisingly wide at MSI, even in the bot lane in terms of stylistically. We just didn't. Loud did not seem willing to push that meta in bot side specifically. We saw some flexibility in the rest of the roles, and we just didn't see it in bot, and I think that it cost them pretty badly.
And I'm sorry to say as well that for Croc, it feels like every time he goes international, he picks up a new father. Like, it's just really rough. Yeah, you got Jinja. You know, he picked up last year. Now it's Levi. Like, it's just I don't know, man.
It's unfortunate. I think Croc to me was kind of the. It's like kind of, I hate to say it's what you expected, but it's for me mentally, if there was going to be kind of like someone who just kind of didn't show up, and it sucks that it doesn't seem like it's progressing. And again, like, we only can go off of what we are presented, and which isn't a lot. We are going at the tip of the iceberg here, but like seeing Tinones and Robo especially like improve, like you said, tournament on tournament, and like these are guys with immense international experience, literally the most. At this point, I think they have the most CBLOL titles at this point. So they have been
highest. Tinones is tied with brTT.
Exactly. Yeah, they have been to the most of any international of any Brazilian player, right? And so I guess from that perspective, as if you're rooting for Brazilian talent, you go, okay, great, that's a good thing. That Tinones looked like a kind of mid-tier Western mid laner, right, and held his own against some titans of the game. Some guys that would just rinse people who aren't mentally there and aren't just on their game. Robo especially, right? Because how many times have you seen Robo just get rinsed in lane, right?
Yeah,
like,
we've seen some bad international stuff before.
That Rise game from 2 years ago.
I always remember. That's the one I always remember.
I will never forget that as long as I live.
I was so funny when I was watching back the Summoning Insight episode that RMC was on, and they were talking about like Robo, and I was like, please bring up the Rise game, because they were like, they were saying that like Robo always does well, and I was like, no he doesn't, no he doesn't, and then you brought it up, and I was like, yes RMC, this is why we need you on here.
People were saying Rise was going to be meta in top lane, right?
Yeah,
like,
there were rumblings about that. Yeah,
and I saw it, and I was going, oh please no, like don't encourage to do this.
Do not give him a window. Don't open that door, okay? We don't let him. He's gonna get his foot in it. Do not let him through it. But no, I thought that was good. So yeah, the solo laners did well, and the players with the most longevity did particularly well. I thought the bot lane unfortunately suffered when previously they've been good, and Croc sadly is Croc. I think he has said as well that he wants to bring CBLOL to the main stage this year, because he is most likely going to have to go military service after this year. So he now has potentially one more chance before he goes onto military service. And then we'll see what happens after that. Now, there is potential for that not to be the end of the story, and that connects to something else we will talk about later with the roster changes. But to quickly gloss over the rest of MSI, I thought this particular whole MSI was a banger, almost from top to bottom. Once we'd gotten over Loud getting creamed, literally and metaphorically, I think that it was just an excellent tournament. Format was great, games were hype as hell, the series were great, deserving winner, exciting narrative there, just no notes. You know what I mean? It's just great.
Yeah. Nothing further to add. I'm glad Chovy got a title. If nothing else, just so we can.
Dude, I've been predicting Gen G on Fantasy just like stalwartly for years, just because as soon as I stop doing it, he'll win. Yeah. So I had to keep doing it. You know?
Surely, eventually, the team with the strongest players will win something, right?
I don't want to say that Chovy's got rid of his international choker title because they won, but it wasn't thanks to Chovy. It was in spite of Chovy in the grand finals.
Yeah, he was not Chovying.
No, he was not. That was a Canyon diff coming in, and that lost
it was good
to see Canyon back on top.
Yeah, because I remember earlier in that tournament,
watching him in 2020 was again, talk about formative League of Legends experiences. Watching Canyon do what he did in 2020.
The amount of jungle impact that he has is just truly phenomenal. I remember earlier in the MSI when I don't remember who he was against. It might have been a West. It might have been G2 actually, where he was on Kazakhs, and I was like, and it was just abominable. He was just getting like creamed on the Kazakhs, and I was like, this is Gen G as a team that has so many individual
was this 2 years ago.
This was this tournament. It was this tournament.
Oh, never mind.
Canyon had an absolutely, because he was like, had a good start and then was just getting picked on repeat over and over and over again. I think G2 actually lost that game in that series.
They didn't play G2, did they? Like Gen G, I don't think played G2. They played Fnatic.
Maybe it was Fnatic. Maybe it was Fnatic. Yeah, it was Fnatic. Yeah, it was Fnatic. But there's games that Gen G had where there was always someone who could pick it up. It was Keen, or it was Chovy, or it was Canyon, and they all had bad games where they just got into a bad matchup, or they just had a bad day on the Rift.
That was the Paige Draven game.
Yes, except for the bot lane, who had a very, very strong tournament. Everyone said they were going to be the weak spot, and they actually had, to my money, the most consistent performance out of anyone in Gen G. So that was cool to see when we know that we know what Canyon can do, we know what Chovy can do, what Keen can do, these super best in the world on their day players, but it's not their day every day. But we had the bot lane to pick it up, so I thought that was cool, and I'm glad that Gen G has finally gotten there, and we'll see if they continue to get there.
Yeah, and I also want to say, like, T1, there's a reason why everybody keeps thinking T1's like the best team, even though they're not. Yeah. Like, even this tournament, the way they were playing, like, some games are bad, some games are good. Yeah. But it just feels like they're the protagonists and they always blow up.
It's weird.
Even when they got knocked out against PLG, it was pretty close. Like, that was some of the worst gameplay I think we've seen from T1. But even then, it just feels like they always feel like the protagonists. They always feel like they're going to win right up to the moment.
Especially now with the new players that are so hyped, like Keria and Gumiushi and Zeus and stuff. Like, they had these players that have had their downtimes, and they've all taken their flack for one reason or another, and all of them have been incredibly impactful on their role in the game now. And so it's a very anime protagonist team with Faker, like, you know, Grandmaster in the middle of it. I think that one of the biggest things that came out for T1, the last thing on MSI here, is just the fact that Faker had a pretty bad tournament, right? People were I think people overall were like, well, man, this was a rough one for Faker. He did have a big role, I think, in beating G2 specifically. I think there were some Faker plays that specifically ruined the LEC's hopes. But overall, this was not a great tournament for him. And it's been a while, I think, since we've seen that. It's happened in the past. Like, we've had times where Faker was just kind of okay, but it's been a few years, I think, since we've been like, man, he just doesn't really stack up today.
Yeah, I think in the post-pandemic world,
like, that's the problem. Like, he's having such a terrible tournament. Like, in the G2 series, he was like basically invisible to game 5, and then just when it matters, when everything, when the stakes are high, Faker just descends like the Demon King he is, or ascends like
I'd win,
forces a win. Like,
so. A lot of cool stuff coming up MSI. Very happy with it. The format revamp has now both major tournaments, I think, have popped off very well. Everyone's been happy with the format. So that's good to see. And overall, it's very good international offseason. So let's refocus. Let's talk about the CBLOL in Split 2. Now, we've got to get into the spice straight away. Let's get the rosters up here. We've had minimal moves, but as we said, some big, hefty moves. So let's just address the elephant in the room, the brTT of it all. The king, Daddy's the father of the region has returned. Somehow, brTT returned.
And it actually doesn't surprise me that much that he came back, considering that Robo just broke his record. Like, I was wondering.
No. I can see the loud star falling a little bit. Okay, time to swoop in on a roster that was overperforming and has a lot of potential still, and get that record back.
Fill in the one glaring hole on that roster.
Yeah. Now, RMC and I know that we have to pour one out for Cello here, because we were pitching to keep Cello at the end of doing the preseason tier list and near the end of offseason. We were really pitching to keep him. And like, I think there was a good reason for that. But as we were saying before we went live, if you're gonna kick Cello, you probably have to get brTT to justify it to us. And that's what they did. So
I've been backing the Cello horse the entire split. I know he wasn't the best performing AD carry, but I do think he has a place in CBLOL. And I say that, okay, the end of the last split is saying, who are you going to kick Cello for, right? Like, any academy talent, I don't think it's fair. I think Cello has shown that he's above.
I think at one, you're swapping like for like.
Yeah, pretty much. And then if you want to bring somebody back from like the history books, right? Like, which AD carry is worth bringing back? Like, I was thinking in my head, like, oh, the only one, like, maybe I'd say, okay, we boot Cello for this guy is maybe like if P-Boy came back, you know, which wasn't going to happen. I forgot about I didn't even think about brTT coming back. And now that brTT's back, I feel so bad for Cello. Because that's the one player. I'm sorry, I can't back you.
We can't be mad, and I don't think he can be mad either. Really, like anyone else, you'd be like, "This isn't fair. I feel like I deserve a shot." But like, come on, man.
And to be fair, there is a universe in which brTT comes back and is like super washed and does not look much better than Cello.
Sure.
then that story gets really
he's
interesting.
Still on the bench.
Well, I don't think
Zella's ready.
Yeah. Is he still registered to?
Yep, he's on. Yeah, he's on the roster.
Yep. Did he go down to Academy RMC? You know or no?
I don't know yet.
A lot of these rosters have as many as 4 players listed in one role, so it's not clear who's on Academy for a lot of these guys.
Bless this region.
We're just accumulating players.
All the rosters yet.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't think they've put out like they haven't put the official. We're not close to week 1 yet. We've got another week and a half or so left. So they haven't put the official first rosters out for Academy and CBLOL. So we'll see who starts. This is best estimate as far as I can tell. This is probably who's going to be starting. But there are just waves of the benches are deep on all of these rosters almost. So I imagine you're going to start brTT though. That's my guess.
Just going back before like I actually don't think brTT was the most mechanical or like best AD carry even when he retired, right? Like, 2021, even when he won with Pain, I wouldn't say that he was necessarily the best bot laner. But I think what brTT brings is exactly what Los Grandes needs, which is that leadership, that sort of veterancy. This roster did really well last split, considering how new they were as a team. And I do think when it came down to it, it wasn't a lack of hands that cost them their series. It was kind of the decision making, and brTT is king at that. Like this guy, like we talk about how like Titan, he knows when to engage. He's got that sense for knowing things. brTT was like original Titan. Like this guy knows when he should go in. And I think brTT is a really smart guy. He won't join a roster if he doesn't think they're going to win. He genuinely believes they can win.
And he had quite a few offers.
I'm pretty sure if he'd opened himself up, any team would just be like, just throw a bid in. Just make a bid. Just in case.
I literally think it would be like, even for Loud, it is because like again the last time seriously like I think it is a dereliction of duty if you don't at least explore the possibility of getting brTT in, because remember the last time he won a CBLOL title was with Robo and Tottenham. Do with that information what you will.
Spicy. I think Loud would
get the band back together.
I think they would go, but we'd double our Twitter followers, and we have already like 8 million. So
we already have social media machine.
It's probably we've already had 4 titles, guys. Like maybe let's just gracefully lose, but we'll get brTT. Probably a W overall. So I think anyone would explore it for sure, and we'll need to see now how brTT slips in with Cabby. We'll see how that gelling goes, because Cabby obviously is relatively new to this region, but Cabby has been playing in regions that speak English and etc. kind of for a while, so there shouldn't be any like language barrier there. But there is obviously just a consideration with any new bot lane, looking at you, Kaboom, that sometimes it doesn't work, even if the pieces are good. So we'll see if that is actually an improvement there.
And a last little addendum there. The last time brTT won a title was with a Korean support. Lucy. So this is something that he has done before.
The pretty unanimously best Brazil like support in CBLOL ever before Seos had been around for a long time longer, right? I think most people would say that Lucy was probably just number one there on balance. So I mean now I think Seos has usurped that, but We shall see. So brTT is back. Los Grandes now overperforming. Came within a hair's breadth of, was it third? They almost knocked VKS out. They came incredibly
they were
close.
Like 5th, 6th, but yeah.
Sure, they came.
The rank does not indicate their skill.
Yeah, they came incredibly close to knocking VKS out, who ended up coming third, and looked like they could have taken anyone in the league. Could have taken anyone's lunch money at any time, basically. So now they have brTT. Let's see how that shakes out. And we already, had them as another playoff contender. Now they're absolutely right up there, potential top 4 consideration, but we'll get onto that. So some other names that you may know that CBLOL enjoyers of the past may be familiar with. Fluxu has brought back Shini into the jungle. Sting again. Curse. Now this one isn't fair in my opinion. I don't have as much emotional attachment to Shini though, so maybe that's why I feel that way, but I felt that Sting had a great split and finally deserved to be kept somewhere. I'm sad that he's not anywhere, I'll be honest. I mean, I don't know who else I would like instantly drop for him. Maybe Drake Hero, I don't know, but I think that Sting had a good split and I hope we get to see him again. But Shini, RMC and 4x4, guys, you've been around in the CBLOL scene a little longer than I have. Do you want to talk a little bit about what is Shini? What does he bring? What does he mean to the folks?
RMC, I'll let you go first on this one.
Sure. I think, the last time we saw Shini in CBLOL was back in 2020, right? That was the EDG roster, right? The one that beat the EDG roster at Worlds.
The one that beat TL in 2020.
TL, sorry. Was it TL? No. Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Shini's known to be a good jungler. My only issue with Shini is that it's been 4 years since we last saw him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like he's been streaming, and from what I've heard, he's been actively actually practicing. And people say that he's still got the mechanics.
They were talking about it last split.
Every off, exactly. Like it seems like every offseason he's like in talks with a team or has a trial with a team. So like clearly there's something there. But I do think there is a bit of a sentimental angle to Shini, and that's not to take away anything from him.
Yeah.
But I do think that is a part of the calculus. This guy seems, again, he was like before, like again, I got like into the CBLOL in like 2021. Start of that, like that was when I got really like invested in, okay, what does who's the identity of every player? He seems like one of the most beloved players in this scene.
Yeah,
I think that's a part of it.
Yeah, and I mean when you look at the fact that he has won it in the past, he has done well in general. In CBLOL, I kind of understand it, the nostalgia for a player who can kind of do that and perform well on an international stage. My only issue is just like the same issue I have with anybody who comes out of retirement who hasn't played in a while. How good are you really in the current world, right? Yeah. Like a lot of times the mechanics moved on. And I feel bad for Sting because I thought Sting did well. I don't know if this is necessarily an upgrade. And for the Fluxu roster, I do think it's good to have a more experienced player on this roster, maybe a bit of a shot caller, because Chiari, Sting, Fu, Kojima, Scamber, only Chiari was really experienced on this roster. And sometimes they made some questionable decisions, which ended up throwing some of their leads. So on paper, I can see this being an upgrade macro-wise. But I think this change I was okay with. I didn't like Fluxu's other change, though. But
me neither.
We'll get into that if you want to touch on Shini.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would echo what you said, right? This felt like, if anything, this is a group of clearly very talented players, right? Fu was in discussions for Rookie of the Split, I think a top 3 for sure, and he improved as the split went on champions with kind of high carry potential. Obviously, everybody knows about the Akali, and if you've got that in your back pocket, you're automatically going to win some fans over. So I understand the move from the sense of, okay, if you wanted to bring in someone who could just be a little bit more of a puppet master, right? I think back to what Yampy was able to do for INTZ last year, right? That it reminds me of that. So I get it from that perspective.
Yeah. So we'll see. We obviously hope that it goes well. I don't want anyone to just show up and play badly. That's not what anyone wants. So we'll see and see if Shini can come back and see if the guy can still go with Fluxu. And let's go to the other change. Now, I'm surprised, RMC, that you're as down on this, because you weren't as big on Kojima. Like, Kojima didn't have the best split, wasn't amazing. He had a good final few games, but most of the split was relatively underwhelming. And I have always been down on Trigo because I think you can never win CBLOL with Trigo. I think it's impossible. I don't think it's ever going to happen. He's come close. He's come second so many times. But I honestly think he's a big reason why they came second so many times in some of these cases. I just don't think he's got the sauce. I don't think he has sauce.
That's fair.
So I would have rather they kept around to keep developing Kojima, who was improving by the end of the last split and is a nice bet you can make on potentially seeing more. I don't think, this is like sacrificing the potential to get third for the guarantee of getting fifth in my head, is a move like this. Maybe not in exact placings, but that's the kind of idea that this move says to me. Especially when we have Chiari and Fu, who we know Chiari's peak is very, very high at the top of top lane. We know Fu was a very exciting prospect. Shini, if it works and comes back, he is a championship-winning jungler and could be again. And we know that Scambro as well is a worthy rookie that deserves more time to cook. So there's a lot of potential here that I feel like we're just limiting a little bit. Going back to Trigo, who I don't think there's any reason to expect more from at this point, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. RMC, do you feel any differently, I guess?
No, 100% same with you there.
Wow. Okay, that I was not expecting.
I know RMC and I are not always aligned on like player rankings and choices, especially when it comes to X Pain 80 carries.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. That's fair. But I think the problem for me with Trigo is that Trigo, as you said, he's raising the floor, right?
Yeah.
The reason why I don't like it is you've got both Shini and Trigo coming in, and to me, both of them are floor raisers. But in terms of ceiling, I feel like, as you pointed out, they're dropping the ceiling a little bit, right? Like Shini has been a player who can carry in the past, but to me, when you're coming out of retirement like that, your first split, I'm not looking at you to be the huge carry for your team. I'm looking at you more to be like the floor, add experience, but I don't expect your hands to be beating out the younger kids. Trigo kind of does the same thing. So we're raising the floor real high for Fluxu, but to what point? We've seen Chiari enough to know by now that Chiari is good. He can win you a game or two, but he's not going to be like the hyper carry of your team. If he was going to be, he'd have carried Liberty a long time ago. Fu might be that ceiling, might be the big carry, but I'd rather see two sort of high ceiling style players on your team with maybe one or two high floor players. And now you've just raised the floor. I'm not sold on that for Trigo. Don't get me wrong. Trigo is good. I just don't think this was the roster that needed him or should use him. And now that he's here, I'd rather have seen Kojima and try and develop his carry potential. Because sure, he did pop off that hard last split. But anytime it's a Kai'Sa meta, that's a Kojima meta. And we've seen that in Academy. We saw that last split a little bit when Kai'Sa was coming in. That's when Kojima started popping off a little bit. So I don't hate Trigo as a player. I do like him as a player. I just don't think this is the roster for him. And I look at his support too. I think when Trigo looked best, it was always with damage. Because the two of them had a really good balance on how they wanted to do. Last split, when Trigo was over in LOA, with a different support, did not look great.
He did not have a lot of fun.
Scamber as well.
No.
Yeah, that Scamber, decent mechanical player, but it always felt like damage was sort of the goal button. I don't know if Scamber has that in him the same way. And if not, that bot lane is going to be very passive. And CBLOL, passive in a bot lane means dead in a bot lane.
Yeah. I think Scamber has the potential to go that way, just by the way he plays now. We maybe just don't see as much maturity in map movements and playing for the rest of the team as much. It was quite focused, quite individual, like you say. I would say it's good, like engaged, individual decision making, good mechanics, but we haven't seen enough of him, I think, yet to make a judgment on his overall map play. And obviously, we don't hear the comms and things. So I think there's room for Scamber to move into a damage type role, but it is just kind of, we hope he does. Because that's what works for Trigo. So otherwise I feel like we have like quite a mechanical support with a less mechanical, not like Trigo can't be mechanical in any sense, but he's not gonna have the ceiling of the other 80 carriers. Like if you put him on things like a Xayah or something, he can have his day, but not to the same degree.
The team fight mechanics are there, but his laning mechanics have always been
so it could be a weird pairing. It really depends on direction Trigo goes, direction Scamber goes, I guess, and who Trigo is now, having been bullied in LLA for a split. So we'll see how mad he is when he comes back and starts flash Samiraing into people or whatever, just to go, I'm done with that, man.
I'm a little more. I don't disagree with anything you guys said. I think you guys both raised kind of good points, but I think that. I think that the bet here is that you don't need, maybe this is like fundamentally flawed, because like what I'm about to say is like, maybe you don't need Trigo to be like this, Z tier pop off AD carry, because you have really good solo laners, really high ceiling solo laners, in my opinion.
Okay.
Maybe that's the direction they want to take the team. And just, you're not going for win condition in your bot lane, you're going for stable in your bot lane. Now, the counter argument to that is, can you win in modern League of Legends? Sort of like what you were saying, RMC. Remind me of that. Like, if you are passive, you are dead. Can you win in modern League of Legends in Brazil against some really good support and some really good AD carries if your bot lane is just, not losing you the game? I think that's what we could find out with this roster.
Yeah. I think bot lanes, you can't just sack your bot lane to have another strategy, it feels. Especially, I'm not even sure if, who knows where the lane swap meta is going to be by the time it comes around. They obviously rejigged a ton of items, but that's put a ton of power back into AD carry as the kind of the initial report. So you can't just have a do-nothing bot lane right now in the meta, because you need to have a carry bot laner, because the items are too strong. So, like, I don't know what that's... It's not ideal for Trigo in my head. But we'll see if it just rewards stable, sensible play, because you're always going to be valuable. You don't have to pop off to get there. Maybe it works out. Who knows? We'll see how that shakes out. So, Fluxu, we're kind of just like, well, you've done something. That could work, or not, I guess. I'm glad Fu is still there. That's the main thing I'm excited about, is I'm glad Fu is still playing in the CBLOL, because that was hype as hell. So, we'll see how that goes. Let's just keep going from right to left, but we'll skip down to INTZ, who have been, I believe, the only rookie movers so far. Everyone else has been a lot of old names coming back, but INTZ have ditched the just historically rough project that they had last time. Tay has dissolved once again, and we have elevated Yups, who was, I believe, Pain Academy's top laner, right, RMC?
Yes.
Yeah.
And okay, so I'm just talking.
We got Academy people, so RMC, let's just wind them up and and let them go. Yeah.
Because it's not just Academy players, but it's Yups and Dio. So Yups, in the first place, he is Pain Academy's top laner. And if y'all think Super Clever and Makes was good, Yups, back when both of them were, when all three of them were still in Academy, I'd put Super Clever over Yups, but Yups was beating Makes. So on paper, if Makes could make it, then theoretically Yups is actually in a pretty good spot. And fun fact, Yups has a brother in CBLOL playing. Yampi.
Wait, I knew this. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
They're on the same team. The
It's
brothers
so
on the same
cool.
team.
It's so cool.
Like, how often do we get to see that? I am so hyped to see how this kind of works out, because Yampi is a very experienced player. As you pointed out earlier, for our last split on INTZ, his experience leading that team was why they got as deep as they did. Now with his old brother too, like, I'm hyped to see that. And then Dioj. The two mid laners I was really hyped for last split was INTZ and Dioj. Dioj is like the Super Clever of mid lane at Academy right now. Now, I will say that the mid lane, I think, is a harder lane right now in CBLOL for a lot of these players to come into.
Yeah.
The meta as well doesn't allow mid laners to carry quite as hard. So I wouldn't expect Dioj to pop off the same way Super Clever and Makes did. Yeah, I don't think the changes really affect mid lane that much. So, but I do think Dioj and will hopefully have a better time than INTZ. He just played this last bit on Kaboom Academy, which was the CBLOL
team
roster.
Yeah.
It had like Betal, it had Crossdial, it had who was
Skuro,
jungler.
and
Skuro's the AD carry, and
was it Scary?
Oh yeah, Scary was the jungler. Yeah. So
right.
literally, like, all guys have played in CBLOL before. I'm sure Dioj, will fit right into this actual CBLOL roster as well. So I'm really hyped for the INTZ roster. I just am concerned about their management, because it feels like their rosters aren't bad on paper, but something up there is broken and it kind of trickles down. So fingers crossed that we don't end up butchering both these rookies.
Yeah, it kind of.
Now, RMC, question for you here, real quick. Coming into, because INTZ was, I think, if I understand it correctly, he was hyped up coming out of Academy, but not as hyped up as Dioj is. Is that an accurate assessment? Who do you think, like, when, again, transport yourself back to last split before we saw INTZ in CBLOL? Who had the more hype coming in around them? Was it INTZ or was it Dioj?
So I think in 2023, INTZ actually had more hype than Dioj. But then his performance in 2023 split 2 was not as good. Like, INTZ fell off a little bit. Partially, I think it was the roster. I think he was in Red Academy.
Yeah, there was talk of him being elevated to Red main.
Yeah,
before
and
like Envy went in, I think they were thinking about that. I think when they were transitioning away from Avenger again, there was talk it was going to be INTZ. That he was going to play some stage games, but he never did.
So going into 23 split 2, I think INTZ was more hyped than Dioj. But in that split, I think partially because Mortius was also taking a lot of resources. And I think INTZ kind of lost a bit of that carry potential in 2023 split 2. So coming into 2024, I think it was like kind of even. And then after last split, Dioj stood head and shoulders probably as like the best mid laner in Academy. And INTZ struggled on INTZ. So I think coming to this split right now, Dioj is much more hyped than INTZ. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned as well. Because I do see parallels between their situations on how they're coming into this. It's the same team as well. Now, I also do believe I heard, I don't know how true this is because I don't know about the contracts, that Yups and Dioj aren't actually INTZ players. They are on loan, I believe.
Or at least for one of them. I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that a thing that we can do in League? I don't know if I've heard of that ever happening in LoL before.
So I think Takui is the first example of that happening. Now everybody's doing it because Takui is being loaned up to ITL.
He's been loaned to ITL. Oh, they're keeping a hold of him.
So that he keeps playing.
Okay.
But his contract belongs to VKS. And I think from what I've heard, Yups and Dioj in a similar situation where they're being loaned out to INTZ to get experience, but their contracts are still being held by Pain and
sure.
I don't know both of them or one of them. I just heard something.
If UK League was big enough, we would have started doing this. But I guess like Brazil is the other like biggest football nation on the planet. Is like, how do we just get this system into here? We know how to loan players. We are familiar with this system. Let's just do that.
Hey, I'm down for it.
It sounds cool.
It's very interesting. Yeah. It almost feels like it's protecting INTZ from themselves in this scenario. Right? Because you can't sign Dioj to like a bigger deal than you probably signed INTZ to and just blow a lot of money on another, kind of risky project. You wonder, Dioj is walking into a pressure cooker, right? Like this is still INTZ. This is still, a top 3 biggest fan base in CBLOL. Like
and has a historically like everyone thinks it's the org's fault. Right now, like everyone believes it's the problem. Yes. I
would say Kaboom doesn't want to lose another top prospect, right? They lost Super Color Los Grandes, and still what happened with Super Color coming in. So I'm pretty sure they want to hold on to Dioj because Dioj is going to be worth a
insane lot of money. Bag fumble, just still the most insane bag fumble of all time by Kaboom there. Okay, so for INTZ, we have the same core of Yampi, Ninja Kiwi damage. So we have a promotions on either side, but strong academy promotions. I think it's probably fair to say that Yups we'd expect to be a noticeable upgrade from Tay, who did not have a great split and was pretty up and down generally, and I think this was the correct move here. And then Dioj over INTZ, who, apart from a few games near the end of the split as well, there were a couple of ones I know RMC thought that he didn't have the best environment to succeed in. Ultimately, he did not succeed at the end of the day. So we've got solid prospects here with the same core. We'll get into some more depth in power rankings, but just quickly, does anyone think this is going to significantly change the trajectory of INTZ? You said you were excited for this roster, RMC. Do you think it's going to move the needle here in the context of the rest of CBLOL, or is it just going to be less depressing than last split?
Well, I definitely think it's going to change the direction of INTZ. I just don't know what magnitude we're looking at here, right?
Yeah.
I do think all the changes this offseason have been good. I've liked, with the exception of Fluxo, and even Fluxo I don't hate. So because of that, I do think it's a really tough role for INTZ. I don't want to see them finish 10th with this roster. I do think they shouldn't finish 10th with this roster, but I thought that last split as well.
Yeah. It does kind of feel like, if you ask me to pick a 10th place team, it's not easy for me to do so because, like, previously it'd be easy to look at teams like Liberty for this, but that's not an easy call anymore. Not after the last split. We've seen what this roster can do. Yep. Are the INTZ changes good? Maybe. They're both considerable. I think they're both significant. And then Fluxo as well. Like, they're both very noticeable stylistic changes probably going to happen for Fluxo based on these players. So it's really hard to pick a 10th place team, which is good because there's no one who you're like, this team is bad and they're going to lose. So that's nice. I appreciate that. Red Canids, just a minor one. They've ended up putting Frosty in. They put him in for a weekend before, 1 or 2 games, I forget which. And they were fine. They didn't win them, but it wasn't like Frosty was running it down or anything. This was like a shaky time with the split for Red. And Frosty, we've seen perform solidly well on Red before. I think he was the starter 23 split 2, and then Jojo was brought in, and they were doing the 6-man thing, but they very quickly gave up on that, and everyone said it was a bad idea, and it was. And then now Jojo has gone to FURIA instead. So My gut says that Red have just decided to go with Frosty because they were clearly doing a consideration of that way when they're running a 6-man thing. You're clearly trying to pick between the two. And potentially FURIA might have just reached out and given Jojo, an offer he can't refuse kind of thing. But do we think this changes anything significantly for Red going with Frosty instead of Jojo? Do we think there's going to be a dynamic shift of any kind here?
I don't think so. To me, they're similar sort of players. I think Frosty maybe what Jojo didn't have in kind of macro sense. I think of Jojo as a very kind of potent guy in lane. His combination with bruncy as well. I thought that was at its best, honestly magical. At its best, it was the best.
It was the best. At its best, it was the best. Best. Yeah.
Yep. I think this is a gamble for Red. Man, I think this. I don't know. I worry for Red, man. It's nothing against Frosty. Like you said, he was good when he was the starter. He was fine, right? Maybe that team was. I think that team was destined to fail for reasons other than Frosty, right? That super team. There was too many cooks in the kitchen. It felt like, okay, this is a team that's going to be. They're going to finish, first through third in the regular season, then lose in the semifinals, and that's I think basically what happened.
Yeah. Yep. I think so.
And I don't know, man. Look, it could be fine. I don't really have any kind of any thoughts on this because I think I don't know. For me, it was tough for me to really evaluate Frosty on that roster because he never like you said, he never sprinted it down. Even last year when he was in for a week or two. I think it's going to be a side grade.
Yeah, it's good mechanics. We know that I think the lane is still going to be strong, and that's important to have a strong bot lane to play around. Bruncy is a good 2v2er. He's got a good 2v2 support. I think, the issues that Red were having were coming from the rest of the map mainly. I think that's still going to be the case. I know I, for one, apart from FNB, who is my beautiful baby boy, I think I'm needing to see more from Aegis and Grevthar. I'm having a slightly Chiari-esque crisis of goodwill around them right now. But Chiari stepped up last split and proved me wrong. So we'll see if they can get it together. And whether this works, because I think now, especially with like Dioj coming in, and we know how good Fu is. Like, as you'd said, RMC mid lane is kind of cracked right now. Like, Pilot had such a great split, so I'm expecting him to still be good. Laleko is now solidly in and was popping off. Like, mid lane is kind of wild in the CBLOL right now, and Grevthar did not look wild. He looked a bit under par. So
he looked okay, and at times bad.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. And I will stand my defense with Grevthar. I think he did what he had to on this roster. Grevthar was never expected to be a carry mid laner.
Yeah.
He is support. Basically, he is the jungle, and Aegis is the carry. In this roster, right?
Maybe I think they just need to lean into that more. I think there were too many Grevthar Azir games. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's just not.
And you saw that in the second half of the split. Again, you talk about no, like if you were to make a Twitter page, just no. I think it actually exists as no context CBLOL. Like the end of game damage graph where Grevthar was on Yone and Jojo was on Nautilus. Make it up. He did less Nautilus damage than Jojo.
Yeah.
On Yone.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Like ever since then, they went away from trying to turn Grevthar into Envy, into Tinones, and it worked out great.
I think that this MSI as well, and the other regions like Team Liquid as a good example, you don't have to just make your laner whatever the best laners are and just force them to do that. That's the way APA does. He plays one of 3 champions, 2 of which before international end of split almost no one was playing. People picked up ASOL like as it went on, but no one plays Ziggs. Almost no one was playing ASOL until like I think him and some Eastern mid laners popularized it. And then there's Talia, which is just the given that is like it's the best mid if you can get it kind of pick when it happens to work. He does not conform as a player, as a mid laner, but that's what works for TL. And TL had a remarkably good MSI, I think, by LCS standards and by everyone's standards. They had a very good showing. Just do what Grevthar is good at. Put him on Ivern mid. He's good at Ivern mid, and you have
When are we going to
Bruncy.
see Kled again?
Yeah, just give him something
dude,
that can skew the matchup. Give him a matchup that you can abuse that no one knows to get him through the lane, and something that is useful for the rest of the team. Just don't make him, as you say, don't make him Envy. He's not Envy, and you don't need Envy. Like, you don't need an Envy to win. So
I think tried Envy and it didn't work.
So.
Yeah,
and like tried
and like Envy was good, but it wasn't. They didn't win there, and they don't have him now. So don't act like you got him now. And Envy was playing Aatrox mid. Where's our spicy? Now you have Grevthar. Where are the spicy picks gone? So I think they just need an attitude shift in how they operate that.
I do want to say though that for Red, I think the biggest change for them is one that's actually not a player change. It's the coach change that's coming in.
Did they drop Kalec?
They dropped Kalec and Nelson's back.
It's just Nelson.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that to me is really interesting. I always had concerns in a way with Kalec and the Red roster specifically, because I think Kalec is a very like standard style coach. They give him a standard team, give him a team that follows his instructions, and they will do well. We saw that on Vorax, Liberty, and Liberty before that. But when he was on K-Stars, like there's a reason why that K-Stars that K-Stars team absolutely struggled, because that is not the Kalec style team. Like you had the Mad Mexican grill on it, like it was never good. I feel like the Red Canids roster is kind of like that. So switching just to Nelson this time with no Kalec behind him, I'm actually very curious to see if that changes anything, because the core of this Red Canids roster is still good, right? We touched on Frosty's not really a downgrade. He's like a low risk, low reward change. We know he's mechanically good. Paired with bruncy should work on paper. Aegis Greftar will do Aegis Greftar things. We want to see more of that, if anything. And I'm very curious to see if Nelson is able to do a bit better, perhaps, with this roster and how they don't necessarily want to play standard like everyone else.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see more of that from Red Canids. FURIA as the last one with 3 changes, the most changes of anyone. Jojo in support, we mentioned already.
Yep.
And then we have 2 very exciting changes. I'm very happy with these. I think, honestly, pretty much everyone in the CBLOL English team is very excited to see these. ZZK and Wiz return to the CBLOL.
Yes!
Wiz back from military service. ZZK back from a split, just not here for some reason. And
he went to make money. He was winning bread over in Saudi.
There you go. It's just taking the dub, acquiring the bag.
Yeah, he actually won the, I think it was the first split of the Saudi E-Leagues. On XO
That's
Esports.
Incredible.
Yeah. So generally got the bag, came back.
Okay, well, he's got the bag. He's topped up his pocket money, and now he's back to win some CBLOL again. So Jojo, let's touch on quickly first, just because we've already kind of teed it up, into IU. So the IU and Zai thing, I think, was a pairing that 2 very exciting players that got put together, and it just didn't really go anywhere. It kind of seemed like it made both of them a little bit worse, and nothing really came of it. Their laning wasn't that good. When Zai was playing Pyke, it was poggers, but when he was playing Rel, it was horrendous. So like, and IU had some pop-offs, but a lot of just meh games that was not the IU we're used to seeing. So I feel like that's just a duo that didn't work, and that's fine. That's allowed, And I mean,
Zai felt like a Pyke one trick, and I'm gonna be honest, Zai was not the best support in that bot lane.
No, they put it like, well, if they'd put an IU, I remember when we were doing a trivia game ROC, and we're like, you forgot the IU played Udyr bot lane 2 games or whatever, and like, yes, we forgot that, RMC, thank you.
We did.
So it was a weird bot lane. That's, I don't think, what you need to do to get the most out of them right now, and I'm expecting a Brunsey Jojo-esque formula here. IU is gonna play Varus and play Lucian and play Zeri, and he's just going to be a poggers AD carry. So I'm excited for them to go a more traditional route in the bot lane here. I'm sad that Zai, he just needs to go and have his redemption training arc, I guess, because it does seem like he had a rough split, and I'm sure, more is in him, and we'll see him back again. But I'm hopeful for this bot lane for sure. I think there's no reason why it wouldn't be better. And it should be a solid point for FURIA to build on, which is nice.
Agreed. And I think FURIA's problem last split wasn't their... As much as like Zai only was really winning on Pyke, the top side changes to me are what make me really excited for them more than anything else, because we had that whole like destroy mirror issue, like the whole shenanigans where they got just dropped midway through the split. They brought in Shino and Shiner, who did well for Academy players.
They're fine.
They were really solid, great debuts. But they're not like winning pieces. Whereas you get ZCK back, to me, that was one of the weirdest things to me when ZCK left. When INTZ dropped ZCK. I was like, why are we doing this? He's a great top player.
Another bag fumble. And it might not have been a bag fumble. It might have been a Saudi Arabian bag dangling potentially, which I don't think INTZ can step to that, sadly. So,
but they clearly did something.
Yeah.
Well, I guess FURIA cllearly did something.
Yeah, FURIA have managed to get Jojo over and ZZK, and then Wiz, back from military service, back from previously we last saw him on Kaboom, where I believe he finished 3rd. That was a Parang, Wiz, House, Natuno, not Natuno at that point, was it? No, it was the Save and Skuro. I believe was the last one, or Dudson Skuro, the final iteration of that. Someone in Skuro.
Maybe.
But the Parang, Wiz, House top side was the money maker there for me. I did like the Save a lot, but that was where a lot of games were won, a lot of lanes were smashed, a lot of CSD was gained in those games by Kaboom. They just had excellent laning, excellent mechanics, and Wiz, I thought, was like top 2 jungler in that last split.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty clear that he was top 2 jungler. It was maybe, I don't know, maybe we put Aegis above him at the time. I think that was like a Croc was still on the minors at that point or something like that. So I don't know if we'd seen Loud Croc yet, but that was just, it was very sad that he wasn't there. Obviously he had the military service, you can't do anything about that. And the weirdest thing for me is a lot of the Brazilian pundits are like, Wiz was bad, why is Wiz here? And they're putting him at like the bottom of their tier lists, and that confuses me. I don't know why there's a lot of undervaluing of Wiz right now. Maybe it's just because of like, well, he's a good player, but we haven't seen him for a while. So in the Shini-esque, like, does he still have it? But it felt like people thought that he was, I think it was Ranger or someone, there was like a clip of him saying that he thought that like Wiz was never good or something like this, which is just bonkers to me.
Yeah, that's weird to me. So quickly, I went back to double check. So 2022 split 2 was the last time we saw Wiz. They finished 5th, and Croc was on Loud. That was the start of the Loud.
Okay, sure.
So, yeah. So I think at that point he was probably 3rd. Maybe that's why people kind of forgot about him, because the most recent like performance wasn't his best performance. But I agree. I think Wiz was great, and I think this is a winning formula. You get a Korean top laner with Wiz, especially since he's just on military service, probably more comfortable with Korean right now than he is with English. Especially a carry top laner, he will camp that lane, and they will get incredibly ahead. You give him a mid laner he can work with. Now, how is this a mid laner? Is very interesting mid laner, because he can carry games on his own, especially in the regular season. But I don't think of him as connecting particularly well with any of his junglers, right? Like House does what House does on his own. He makes his own plays, and drags the team with him, if you will. But the last time Wiz and Tuts played together, this was a good duo. They last played together back in 2020 in the COVID Cup. 2020 split 1, and they won the split together. And Wiz and Tuts had a really, really good connection. So I really like the ZZK Wiz Tuts thing to come through. I think this is the best way to have Wiz kind of play. My only concern with Wiz is, again, you break for a while. Same thing with Shini. Like, how good are your hands coming out of military service? What was the last one who came out of military service? Was it Trick? Trick was the last guy we had coming out of military service.
Yikes.
That did not end well.
Yeah, we don't love that. That was a bit
I'm
grim.
hoping Wiz does better.
Yes, I'm hoping that's solid. I think I'm hopeful for it for sure. I don't think there's any definitely a upgrade from where they ended. I know that RMC had like, you didn't think Mir got a fair shake there, but Shino and Cena, they were solid. But I think this is a solid upgrade for the top side. ZZK we know is a lane smasher, and Wiz I think was a very, very capable jungler. So the one question left for me is, I hope that Tuts like earned his spot to still be here, because I was not enthused with Tuts last split. He's kind of absent. From most of it.
He was just okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you're hoping that just a lot of this kind of roster reformulation will just help him just focus on his own game. Maybe he felt like he was having to do too much. That's maybe. Kind of what I'm conjecturing. Yeah, right?
Tuts
because we've seen the highs, right? It's there, and I think they're saying, all right, one last ride with Tuts, because like if Tuts has another split like he did, I think just bring in Tukui or something. Like I think this is kind of his last shot to reassert himself as a CBLOL mid laner.
That's right. Yeah, I think he wasn't an issue, which is why I can see why he's still on this roster.
Exactly.
But
like
his situation, he was largely invisible.
He could have been. He used to be like an Envy, like a Tinones, like a really strong mage player, scaling win condition threat who could be a playmaker. Like he could be a very impactful mid laner, even just like 2 splits ago. And we sadly have not seen that in a little bit. So if that slots together, we now have strong laner in ZZK. For my money, probably a strong 2v2 in bot lane with Ayu Jojo. And if Tuts gets back into his groove, we potentially have a very strong like early profile here. Wiz with a very competent jungler. And this could actually be another mid to high table threat if these pieces slot in together. Depending on how much, the landscape shifting has affected Wiz and ZZK's ability to compete. So it does tee up the difficult thing that we need to do now, because I realize we are going a little long here, but there's plenty to talk about. But RMC, do you want to drop
one
something?
more thing to the roster, please?
Yes.
Okay, is there any roster y'all think should have made changes? Because we had half the rosters make changes. Hop did it.
Oh yeah.
Are there any rosters y'all feel should have made changes? Which Jaden, I know you do for sure.
I know. Yeah, you helped me not forget that one. A certain, central roster on this diagram that I certainly had some words to say about at the end of last split. One particular lane on the southern side of the map for Kaboom is still there. We're betting that Natuno and Seos are going to work it out. And I don't think that they will.
To be fair, I think for one split of underperformance, when Malrang and House fundamentally shift, the identity and playstyle of a team, Lonely was a black hole up there for half the split, and that's being generous. Natuno and Seos are two of your three most recent MVPs in CBLOL.
Yeah, true.
If there's anyone to bet that they will turn it around and figure it out, it's these two. If anybody, I would advocate for replacing one of the solo laners. I think Lonely should have been on the chopping block.
Yeah, probably.
If there's anyone that's like, okay, we're gonna hitch our wagon to Natuno and Seos, they've done it before, right? Yeah. They've won MVP. It's there. I'm not saying they're justified in doing this necessarily, but it's like how long are we gonna keep doing the house thing?
Definitely expensive contracts that they probably want to get some value out of. I wouldn't have been surprised.
I think that is a big because they gave Seos, they backed up the Briggs truck to this boy's house.
Yeah,
and Natuno is not cheap as well.
I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd seen if Los Grandes, if they had loaned Seos back to not back, but like to Los Grandes or something, and Los Grandes would have gone, we got brTT, let's get Seos as well, let's get like the goats, the goat duo together. Which would have been funny, but obviously sad for Cabby as well, so I think it's still fine what they did. But this Kaboom, it's important to know they do still have Crastiel on the roster, who had some very good support games to be played in previous splits and in some academy time. And I'm just saying, don't forget that Crastiel is there. The Kaboom coaches, okay? Just remember that he's there, because he's always going to be there, and I'm sure he'd love a stage game or two if it's not working. I hate to bench Seos, but I just don't think that they're I don't know enough to say if their AD carry stock is as good. Skuro on AD carry, I don't know if that's the way. I've seen Crastiel, and I know that I liked what I saw, so I'm just like, maybe. And then they have Patao on the bench in top lane. And I honestly have no idea how Patao's going these days. I did not care super hard for Patao before. I thought he was incredibly mid on FURIA, I think it was. He was just there. I think a lot of people also thought more of Patao than I did. But, I mean, if Lonely is a black hole, then could be better than that. So, I don't know, man. This formula just went so wrong from such a high point of expectation. But it was so sick for a bit. But it's the exact same problem that I agree with they've had.
But I think it's not half a split of a disaster to me, given the financial investment they made in this. I was not surprised that they didn't.
Yeah, I'm not an advocate for knee-jerk changes, but I am an advocate for changing things that go horrendously badly. And I was like, that was enough for me to be like, just change something, because that was ridiculous. So I hope that the Kaboom coaches have solved the problems here. I don't know of a single problem the Kaboom coaches have solved in the past 2 years of CBLOL. So
I will say, on the academy coach streams, I have been saying, can we just play the academy team in CBLOL?
We just put them in there
just to see what happens. It can't be worse, right? Yeah. That said, Kaboom CBLOL roster issue is not the mechanics, it's not the players on it. As much as I love Crosshair, I do love Crosshair. I think this guy should be in CBLOL as a support. Trying to replace Seos that's a stretch even for me. And I think you can say that for pretty much role by role, almost every player on this team. So for me, Kaboom's issue is a coaching issue. It's something else. It's not the gameplay, right? The mechanics are still really, really good. It's more like teamwork, mental comms, something on the back end that we can't see. Now, because of that, I don't hate that they didn't change the players. If anything, I just need to see maybe change your coach. If Aries and Vaughn can't get it done, then I think that's the bigger issue right there. If we had to change, like, again, I don't know who you change it player wise. Like, there's cases we can make for everybody. But if Kaboom starts like 0-9 again this season, can we please just play the academy team?
Yeah,
if they
just
start
do a
0-6,
Liberty and swap.
You got to make a change with this roster. Like, it's finals or bust for this roster.
Especially when you've had time to bet in now. If you're gonna bet on this one again, you need to show us something.
You've got continuity. You can't have an excuse of, oh, we're figuring it out. Great, you've had a split to figure it out.
Yeah,
want to see results.
Yeah. So
we happy with every other roster, like Loud, Pain, Liberty, Katesers.
I mean, I don't know if the Liberty experiment continues to work. We saw it failed to work at a critical juncture at the end of last split, but it was working very well for a time. And there's definitely pieces like Pilot and Drake Hero and Makes that I'm still very happy to have plenty of time for. So I'm interested to see where they land now with teams like with Fluxo and INTZ and FURIA. They're like compatriots outside of playoffs, having all made significant changes, and they have not. They're the only non-playoffs team that's not made a change. So we're gonna need to see why or like where they land now in a new landscape at the bottom half.
Yeah. Like Trajan, do you follow English soccer at all?
Loosely. Okay.
Tottenham this last year started the season at the top of the table.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a Hotspurs fan, so I'm familiar with Tottenham specifically.
They had a new coach in there who everyone loved, and they overperformed in the early part of the season to the point where when they finished 5th, like it's that thing where at the beginning of the season, if you would have handed a Spurs fan say, "Hey, we're going to give you 5th place on a silver platter," given that Harry Kane, your best player, England's arguably best player, left for Bayern Munich. It's just Hyunmin Son up there. You're getting a lot of changes in. Ange Postecoglou, the new manager, this is the highest, the highest tier of soccer that he's ever managed. With all that, we're going to give you 5th place, right? They probably said, "Okay, yeah, deal. We're probably the 5th best team in England, in the best soccer league in the world." But because they started high and went low, there's a sour feeling among the Tottenham support right now because they overachieved initially. That's what, like, with Liberty, if they would have made roster changes, I would have been really, really sad because I think they overachieved. They missed out on playoffs, which is probably fair. But at your point, Trajan, which is what I was going to make, everybody else around them got better. And now my concern is, if you go from 7th to 8th, people are going to view that as a disappointment. But realistically, I think, again, this is a long-term project. I'm glad they didn't make roster changes, but I think Liberty fans need to just kind of, and maybe us as well, need to kind of weather our expectations of what this team can and should be.
Very much so. Let's not forget, Liberty started like the first half as like, they only found 3 wins in the first round robin. Like the other 6 came in that second half when they went on that, what was it, 6-7 games?
Yeah, they went on a heater.
Yeah. So like, I think with Liberty, there's a lot.
And there were many games that they won where you look at it. Yeah, and there were many games where they won that objectively they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Right? They kind of like the Loud game that they won.
They were doing some red Canids business from the previous split. They were
right. If League of Legends was a more developed esport with more kind of like underlying numbers, right? Again, to use a soccer metaphor, the XG, the expected goals, right? If you would have looked at that, you would have thought, okay, this team overperformed, right? On a number of metrics.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful thing. But again, let's not let that color our expectations and our perception of these teams.
Well,
of this team.
Let's actually put them in order. Let's put put the money where our mouths are here. I have put the link to this file in the text chat, so you guys can jump in. You should be able to access it. And we have our power rankings here for the start and the end, as we did last time. Okay.
I think you might need to let us into the Google Doc.
Okay, so you guys could start discussing what you're going to put in here, and I'll get you guys in the doc. So,
I think this might be the one split I don't have Pain first. Like, I think I've taken too much damage from Pain TSD at this point.
Too much psychic damage.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but I still think it's Pain Loud 1-2. Like, I'm kind of.
Do you think it's Pain Loud, or do you think it's Loud Pain?
It's Loud Pain.
Well, that's kind of the thing.
Is so close. They were so close.
And I think every year that I do this, I'm not going to bring back the Red are going to win the split take, even though they could. There's a chance. I would give them. I say if you were to like divide the pie, right? I would give Loud like a 60% chance of winning the split. I would give Pain like a 30% chance of winning the split, and I would give Red like a 5 to 10% chance of winning the split. They could, but I don't think they will. And I'm not going to do this to myself again. I will happily predict loud this time around, and just, and be surprised and happy when they don't win. Not necessarily because I'm preying on Loud's downfall, but like I kind of am, but not because I don't like the players in the org. I think what they've done for Brazil has been incredible. Yeah. We need a new champion.
Yeah. I have someone who has always had a lot of faith in Red. I kind of don't feel like they could win this split. I don't know why. That's a vibe check, entire vibe check. But I feel like the change that they've made, and with the progress and the trajectories that Pain and VKS are on, I just don't see them beating Pain or VKS in a best of 5. I don't know. Loud? I don't know, maybe. But like, it depends how Loud goes. But I just don't see them getting there against... I don't see them making back the progress they lost, I suppose, on those two. That's just my feeling on them.
Los Grandes 3rd?
I have Los Grandes 4th to start.
Okay, clearly I'm missing something here.
Well, they could have easily finished 4th last split without brTT. And I think that, like I say, I think Red's star is falling a bit. I think Kaboom, I don't have any reason to believe that they're going to be better than Los Grandes right now. And I think that the rest of them are kind of projects, right? Like, Pain and VVK are the same, and Loud, they're all the same. I just think that this is Pain are better at the start of the split. I have faith that the VKS coaching model is going to keep them from dropping off at all. They're just going to keep growing. And then Loud is just going to not care that much because it's Loud. So they're not going to be like bad, but I think they're just not going to care so much.
This is hard, dude. This is going to be a real... I hope this is, because it's shaping up to be a really competitive split.
Yeah.
Like, everyone at the bottom got better.
At least I hope they did.
Wait,
they should get
this
better.
Open? Okay, never mind. I was like trying to hide it so we could do reveals, but...
Oh, no. Dropped it in.
So, what I have in brackets is what I actually think will be, but I want it to be.
Wow!
Okay. That's not super wild to me.
One of these is super wild to me.
This one?
This one right here. Yeah. This 2-cell block right here.
Yeah.
I've kind of given up on Kaboom.
That one is... Yeah, I am struggling to muster...
Like what Trajan was saying, the fact that like
any care.
Kaboom's coaching staff has not fixed any problems for like the last...
I just don't have faith that they're going to do any different. Not making playoffs is brutal, though, but I kind of think it's true. Yeah. I kind of think it's true.
Well, okay, so playoffs is top 6. The problem is that I think other teams have gotten better. It's not so much I think Kaboom has gotten worse. I just think Kaboom didn't change. And every team has like, pretty much stepped it up.
So, 404 is still struggling over the bottom of the table to start with. I like that he has decided where they're going to end, but cannot decide where they're going to start. That's just funny to me.
It's funny to me too.
And I'm just noticing that Liberty is conspicuously absent from your right side of the board already, so 4i4. And there's so many teams. The team with Malrang and Natuno and Seos on it is currently below where you expect Liberty is going to end, which is so funny. It's also really painful, but like it's pretty funny.
Wait, actually, you've got Furia so low for ending. You don't trust the whiz magic?
Does not trust it.
They're not finishing any higher than 8th, I don't think.
Sky has the Brazilian take, Whiz bad, Furia dead.
It's not Whiz bad. It's everybody else is good, and this could go spectacularly dog shit.
It could.
This Furia roster, if they win 2 games this split, I won't be like stunned.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't know with this team.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but IU, God bless him. I want him to be the GOAT. his trajectory has been nothing but down.
Nothing but slightly down for a while. Like, I'm still here.
Yeah,
guys.
after we crowned him the champion after 2 weeks, 2 splits ago.
Yeah, after we sent him to MSI or whatever we did on the graphic, after the production team sent him to Worlds without him being informed. Okay. So something that I am noticing here is that we have the same top 3. Mostly. RMC has an imposter sneaking in there, but I have started and ended with Pain. RMC has started with Pain and ended with Pain in his heart, Loud in his brain. And 404.
So in the span of 2 minutes, you've gone from, I think it's gonna be the first split, I don't pick Pain guys, and then you put them in not 1 but 2 slots.
Yeah.
Okay. The start one's easy because Loud.
He's actually got them in 3 slots because he's got them in first and second, depending on what happens. So he's just picking Pain in more options, as many as will be allowed by the judges.
So here's my problem. Let me clarify what the brackets are. Basically, what I put there is what my heart wants, and what my head is saying it should be is what's in brackets. So my heart wants Pain to win. Like, please, God.
His head says that Loud is going to just smoke him again.
But yeah, at this point, like, Loud just owns CBLOL, right? Like,
yeah, and 404 has also taken Loud at the start and the end. So 404, the only slight, I think, interesting thing here is 404 thinks Loud are actually going to be good at the start of the split, which is a small departure from their usual. But picking them to end absolutely fine, and then Pain as well. Like, I mean, yes, basically. Yeah,
actually, here, I'll flip these 2.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna put Loud above, Pain above Loud. They do tend to start the split strong. I think it's reasonable. RMC, you and I have VKS starting strong as well. And 404 has them down, far the way down in 3rd only. So, we both have we all basically have the same top 3 in the start and the end. RMC and I think Loud are going to start slow, and Cade and Pain are going to start strong. Small difference, 404, basically the same. RMC, tell us about this Los Grandes pick in 3rd at the end of the split.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, we already saw that Los Grandes had a lot of the tools they needed to succeed. I think the biggest thing was just that their bot lane was kind of what failed them a little bit. And Celo did incredibly well in the playoffs, by the way. I do want to shout him out. But towards the end, like, as the game goes on, inexperience, he almost always ends up making a mistake if the game goes long enough. That won't happen with brTT.
Yeah, you put brTT in that series, it's probably a loss. It was almost a loss 3-0, right? That was like a reverse sweep for VKS, I think. I think Lost just completely rolled them up in the first 2 games. They came out swinging, and then we started to have some bot lane shenanigans, and it kind of went long. We had to see Celo almost fight back in game 5. But yeah, I think brTT's in that game 3 probably wrap it up in a cool 25 minutes, so we all go home. So I think that is fair for sure, and I do hope that happens. They were so close to beating VKS already that we'll see if that does not come to fruition. That has bumped your VKS down to 4th, so I guess. I mean, I've kept them in 3rd. 404's kept them in 3rd. Do we just think they don't quite have enough to get any higher than this?
I just want brTT to win.
I mean, some part of all CBLOL fans just want brTT to win, man.
That's why I said, like, it's what my heart wants, but like my head tells me Canids will probably take it. They've got better macro. And the same weakness I suspect is going to apply for both, which is bot lane. Smalley did well as well in playoffs, but we saw that Smalley unfortunately was like a bottom 2 bot lane. At least
in playoffs,
right? So
yeah.
So realistically, it's more like my head's telling me Canids will take 3rd, but I'm still praying for Los Grandes and a brTT success.
Yeah.
There's any cynical part of you guys, because there's a tiny part of my brain that does want brTT to win. And then there's a tiny part of my brain that's like, if a 33-year-old that hasn't played in 2 years comes out of retirement and an amateur boxing career and wins the CBLOL, what does more damage to the CBLOL's reputation? Him winning or Loud winning a 4th title?
Oh, Loud winning, hands down.
Yeah, 5th title, right? What are they on now? Are they on 3? 4? I don't know how many they've got. Too many.
It would be their 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be definitely. They've already won 4. My problem right now is that Loud have become the Dark Knight, right? Like, you either die a hero or live long enough to become the villains. They are the villains of this region, and as long as Loud keep winning, I just don't see CBLOL progressing, unfortunately. Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not seeing Loud progress much either right now. They're winning it, but I'm not seeing like huge improvements. And Redbird, let's be honest, was a downgrade on Seos this split. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. Don't get me wrong there, but he wasn't winning them games the way Seos would. And if you can still win CBLOL when you had a downgrade, and I'm sorry, nobody else really stepped up like hugely on that roster. Like our region's capped right now. So it's nothing against Loud specifically. I just need to see a change. At this point, even if Pain are the ones winning, I'm okay with that. Kate starts would mean an increase in macro. Los Grandes would just mean like, hey, let's bring back the old like Brazilian flair, like brTT winning. Like I'm okay with anybody else winning, but Loud right now.
Yeah. So I think having all players come back and still do well, if they win, it's fine as long as they're good. I don't like all players coming back and getting carried. That's not fun for anybody. That's not cool. But like if he comes back and cooks like good AD carries, we know that we have good AD carries that can mechanically compete. And if he can as well, all power to him. Like, you know, there's Dota players that are like 40 or whatever. So like it's allowed, you know, I'll allow that. I won't be too bad about it.
And League of Legends, according to Dota players, is a baby game.
Exactly.
So surely we can
so our old people are only 33, you know, and theirs are like midlife crisis. So fourth, I have kept Los Grandes at fourth and fourth. I think they're obviously like the most of this formula is the same. I think it can only get better, but I do think the top three are strong enough that I could be convinced to swap Los Grandes and Vivo Cade as well in a similar way to RMC has, at least in his heart. And I would love to see them just like walk into playoffs and slap Loud for no reason whatsoever and force Loud to do a losers run. That would be insane. But I just don't have enough reason to believe it's going to go there. And I don't know how much higher this Lost roster can go with brTT there. So that is an improvement. But I don't know if the rest of the roster is going to continue to grow or change in that way. Like Envy, I think, has been the same for a long time. Super Clever already came in like right near the top. Is there even that much roar for him to go up there? You know, C's as well. I don't know if we saw too much change from him over a split. So they might end up being just a very similar roster that does not throw some key games. Maybe that gets them a slightly higher placing, but maybe just kind of ends them in the same spot as before. So we'll see about that. RMC and 404 have a bit more red hope than I do. I've kept them in fifth, but you both put them in fourth to start, and 404 you've kept them in fourth to end over Los Grandes. So 404 keeping them above Los Grandes as well. You think this red roster has what it takes to
I do.
dethrone?
I think because I'm banking on them kind of learning from their early season struggles, them leaning into their identity more, being a little bit more of a self-aware team. I think Frosty will slot in fine. You know, but if you know Los Grandes 4, you know, Red Canids 5, either one of those, right? I think Los Grandes, like you said, you're counting on more progression. You're counting on brTT being, you know, who he was, and you're counting on, you know, still, you know, reintegrating another piece, right? You know that brTT is going to be a very vocal guy, right? He's going to want the game played a certain way, and that could be tough to do from the AD carry position. And I'll be sure to see how that works with the team's dynamics, because you know damn well it wasn't Cello calling the shots last split, so that's going to change some things.
It was clicking.
In which, look, right, as an AD carry, that's all you got to do. I mean, like Los Grandes, if they don't make playoffs, it'll be a disappointment. I think they're going to make playoffs. I don't see them breaking into the top 3, but I don't see them falling out of playoffs. If you told me they finished anywhere from 4 to 6, I think that there are hairs separating these teams.
Yeah, I'm actually curious, Shijin, that you've got Red not in the top 5.
So I think FURIA, I have a lot of faith in Wiz, as we know, and ZZK, and I think that they're going to get there to the point where it's just going to end up being stronger than Red is over the course of a series. I'm like, my vision is FURIA defeating Red in a best of 5 in the losers bracket to achieve 5th and knock Red out at 6th after Red go against Loud or something in round 1 and then lose again. So
that's interesting, because I can see the faith in Wiz over Aegis, because we talked on Aegis Graph there, obviously. But you've got faith in ZZK over FNB.
That's a very exciting matchup. Okay, it's a very explosive matchup.
That's gonna be a banger.
It's
gonna be a rock fight,
and it would not be the first set of games that Red lose despite FNB being better than his lane opponent. So I think, you know, let's just this mainly banks on I think Tuts reclaiming some sort of form. I think otherwise we can't punish the mid lane matchup properly there, and can't punish Grefthar, which you kind of need to do, I think. So I think it depends. It relies on this formula coming together as they hope, as opposed to just kind of not. And last split, Furious formula just did not come together. They ended up ditching the project quick smart because it just didn't work. So I'm banking on this one working, and I think if it does, that's the season they get to. And like I said, I'm really losing goodwill on Red right now as a collective. and I'm going to see some reason to change that mindset. I think that we all have kind of a flavor of INTZ, Fluxu, Liberty kind of hanging around the bottom of the table most of the time. The only other thing I want to directly address here is, so RMC and I have Kaboom out of playoffs by the end. I have it in 7th. RMC has them in 8th. And 404 has them sneaking in at 6th again.
Bottom 3 are getting cut off a little bit on the screen.
Yes. Let me just zoom that down.
So, now that we're down there. And by the way, while you're adjusting that, I'm going to say as well for Red Canids, I have them 5th end of the season. I actually think they could be anywhere from 3rd to 5th. One thing I think we didn't touch on was bruncy. I still think bruncy's like one of the best, like second best AD carry in the league after Root. And with the changes to AD carry items, I could see AD carries like 1v5ing as the season kind of goes on.
Yeah, so. And if anyone's got the stones to do that, Bruncy's proven he can do that, right?
So I will say for me, Red Canids is a bit of a wild card. I have them 5th. I thought that was already low. Trader beat me with the 6th, but I do think they can pop off at any time, and that one might be a bit more meta dependent.
Yeah. So, I mean, if Kaboom misses playoffs, it'll just
that would be an unmitigated disaster, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
playoffs? Wait,
my expectations are in the bin. Only 404 has them even making playoffs, and they're in 6th. So, and like,
I think they'll keep it close. Again, I don't have a ton of faith in this team, but I think on raw talent alone, I would be surprised if they miss playoffs.
Yeah. I think
especially because the other 4 teams, right, on my end rankings, the other 4 teams, INTZ, FURIA, Liberty, Fluxu. You cannot honestly look me in the face and say like with certainty that those 4 have a higher possibility of making playoffs. There's a shot for sure, but I think it is disingenuous to be like, no, for sure. Like I would bet on one of those 4 teams making playoffs over. No. I just don't think we've seen enough. I like INTZ. That could be a train wreck. Again, you're banking on unproven talent. Again, right? FURIA, they made some upgrades, yes, but that is going to be more reintegration. You're counting on Toots finding his form. You're counting on IU regaining his form, right? Liberty, maybe not. Maybe they regress back to the mean, right? Maybe they lose those games that they won last time. And Fluxu, you've got the potential's there, but Kaboom's floor is so much higher than these teams' floors. They could miss playoffs. In
some ways.
I don't think they will. I wouldn't be surprised if they miss playoffs, but I don't think they'll miss playoffs.
They find unique ways of lowering their own floor. Which is
I can't look you in the eye and say that I would take those bets.
For 2 weeks, they were the best team in Brazil. I've seen them do it. I have not seen any of these teams do it.
Yep, 2 weeks. Okay, Liberty was the best team for like a solid 8 games.
No, they weren't. No, they weren't. They were the hottest. They were not the best. Come on.
They took out Loud, man.
They took out. What would you want?
Pain occasionally beats Loud, and they're the most cursed team against that org in history.
They're the best
Liberty beat Pain as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did beat Pain in that run.
Everybody.
Okay, here's the thing. I can't look you dead in the eye and say that there's no shot Kaboom take this. But what I can say is that betting in CBLOL is a fool's errand in the first place. Yeah. But people do it. And I'm looking at Kaboom not making playoffs, and I'm just saying, I don't hate those odds.
Look, no. But here's where I would, and this is not gambling advice, whatever. If I could bet on CBLOL, which contractually right now I am not allowed to, so I don't. The odds, I would be very curious to see what the odds on just yes, no, do Kaboom make playoffs, and if that no is juicy enough, I would take it.
Yeah,
because if you're talking about which of these teams, which team kind of odds wise in the top 6 has the most disaster potential, it's Kaboom.
Yeah,
we should maybe do like a Twitter poll or something for that after this. When we drop this, we should do like a Twitter poll: Kaboom playoffs, yes, no, and just see what's out there.
What the temperature of the general fan base is. I'm actually genuinely curious.
Yeah. We're pretty cold on it.
I think Trajan had the best point, which is that, hey, have we seen Kaboom's coaching staff or their management actually solve any of their problems in the last 2 years besides just bringing new players? No. And that's why I have no faith in them right now, because I'm not expecting them to improve from what we saw last split. If they do, hey, great, Trajan's going to be over the moon. But
I will. Yeah.
They haven't shown
and you're going to be like, I never doubted them.
I'm going to be like, I doubted you so hard. My expectations were low, but thank God.
Pain, you can't say the same for me. Even when I doubt you, I still have you at number 1.
Yep. RMC Stars are number 1. So I have for disclosure, I have swapped Los Grandes and Cade Stars. I've because they, like I said, they were so close, and RMC said some of the problems that meant that Los Grandes literally lost to Cade Stars will not happen again in this new way. There's just surely no way. So I've committed to Los Grandes 3rd and Cade Stars 4th. So We'll see. I think that's fine for power rankings. Let's look at some predictions of our end of split awards quickly. So the way we have this, these are the awards that we go through in our preseason tier list, and we like to give a little prediction here to see how close we can get, and then we'll call back to them later on in the split. So, split MVP, rookie of the split, most improved, most elo held, and biggest flop. Now, we have 2 rookies by my calculation, which is Dioj and Yups, which are both on INTZ. So, pick your favorite, and we'll see who shows up there. I have heard RMC say Dioj more than Yups, so I'm going to say Dioj. That's my choice.
This is so unfair. Yups has such an easier time, though, in the top lane versus...
Well, pick him. Pick him then, brother.
Yes.
Pick him. Do it.
Pick him, brother? Pick Yampy?
Pick him, brother. Put Yampy in there. See him, brother. In younger.
Fine, I'll do it.
He's done it? Okay, we've successfully peer pressured RMC into taking Yups. Good stuff.
The story's too good, though.
Okay, I like the Tottenham's MVP. That was my pick last time, and I think he was like somewhere in the conversation, but was not.
You can literally always make an argument for Tinone's MVP.
RMC.
Yeah.
What is this? What is Croc doing in the MVP box?
Okay, so I just remember Croc saying, I can't remember which interview, that as long as he's in CBLOL, Pain will never win a championship.
And there's no evidence to prove that isn't the reason why.
and we were just talking about this before, and we realized that there was only one split where Croc didn't screw Pain over. Every other split, it was Croc screwing them over. The one time Pain didn't make grand finals was also Croc. This was before he was loud. He was on Renska, and he screwed Pain over. And this is his potentially last split. As far as we know, this is his last split in CBLOL. So I feel like if there was ever a time for Croc to just pop off and be like the guy in CBLOL, here's my prediction. If Loud win this split, it will be off Croc's back.
Yeah. We've seen that before. We've seen Croc rock up to a finals, get game MVP all 3 games, series MVP, and just completely stomp Pain into the dirt. That was 23 split 2, I believe. It was just an unreasonable whacking by Croc. He has the capacity to do it. I was thinking Titan as well, I'll be honest.
Yeah. I want Titan to win though.
Titan,
I could see that.
Titan or maybe Curry. Because Curry was absolutely cracked out of his mind in that last split. So because I've gone from a stone cold Curry hater to like I want to pick him as MVP of the split. So he's had a big turnaround in my head. That's for sure.
He's good actually. Curry's actually been amazing too.
Yeah. He has settled in
now
so well.
For most improved, are we saying from the end of split 1 to the end of split 2, who we think will have the biggest gap in their performance, or like because someone I'm considering for most improved is IU, but the criteria that would change for me if the criteria was no, we've seen IU be better, right? We've seen his highs be higher, but right now his stock is at an all-time low.
I would say from the last time we saw them like play competitively in tier 1. So if they're a rookie, it's the split. If it's last split, that's the last time we saw them. And if they're better than that,
Shini, it's coming from literally winning a championship.
Then so like brTT and Shini are not going to win this. They're not going to win this award unless people can find some clips of brTT on stream absolutely running it down. I'm sure they exist.
Yeah.
But like,
or if brTT turns into pace.
That's they do not have a reasonable shot. In theory, yes, they could if they are so godlike that they 1v9 the whole league. Fine. They're eligible.
I mean, brTT didn't win his last split, right? The last time we saw him, he was losing to Croc.
Well, we've all done that. He's MVP. I mean, but it's, he's going to have to be godlike to be MVP. It's not impossible. It's just highly unlikely. But just from the last time we saw them play tier 1 comp. So like, we're not going to count from academy to tier 1 because the competition level is not the same. So we wouldn't count that as a fair comparison, I think.
Ninja Kiwi award might not go to Ninja Kiwi this split.
Maybe. Well, we still have him like bottom 3.
He's still in the top 3,
kind of, or bottom 4, kind of unanimously.
He is still one of the few names I'm currently turning over in my head.
Surely, really? Okay. Because if you give him 2 new rookies and they both flop, then like, what's he supposed to do?
The possibility is entirely there.
What do I do when you gave me these 2
I
leaders?
refuse to believe that our top academy prospects are going to flop like that.
Yeah, especially after last split, that was we kind of killed that narrative with Super Clever and Makes. So
So I refuse to believe. I trust in the system.
I think I had IU for most improved last split, and that didn't happen. I kind of want to vote it again, especially because he's going worse and worse. So there's a lot more room for upward momentum here. And
also, does a flop have to be a new person, or can it be someone who
who flops, anyone who just vastly underperforms from what they should be? So like, brTT is a possible choice.
Yeah,
Shini's, they're far more likely to win this one than most improved. Let's put it that way.
Well said.
I was gonna say, because it just showed up as E's, RMC is contacting his Dolphin brethren for a tip on Elo Hell, but
it's just, Elo Hell is actually kind of hard to me. I don't feel like a lot of his rosters are bad actually. So I'm looking at it going like, who do I think might end up on a roster where like they're like kind of screwed by other people?
Yeah. There's a shot for like a FURIA player, I think, if one of them works and none of the others do. There's a chance that like so I is a good one, but
I was looking at it again. Like, you've got JoJo at that point, you got CZK. Like,
ooh, actually, I've got it. I have it. It's Fu.
Okay.
That's the answer.
Yeah, that was the other one I was thinking. I was thinking
it's someone on Fluxu.
That was who I was thinking.
It's someone on Fluxu.
True. Damn.
Yeah. That was the other guy I was looking at. It's the Fluxu roster was where my eye was. Because I had them as lowest, right? So
I think Macau is an excellent call for biggest flop, because Smolder is not playable. So I think that's a great shout.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is the split for old man 80 carries. The most mechanically intensive position, we get two guys that are fossils, and they just run the league.
So my problem is that biggest flop is like the biggest, like, it's like, to me, I treat it as like the opposite of most improved, or like, I had high expectations, he flopped. I have no expectations for Macau.
That's where I had a tough time with this. I guess, I could just be like all the goodwill we've given back to Macau and all the goodwill he has re-earned. It like a lot of stuff that Liberty did to me felt a little shaky, and I could see him just completely reverting to type.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
But your analysis is correct, and I think there is probably a better choice here by that metric.
Hey, this is all subjective anyways, right? So it's a perfectly valid thing. I just personally have given up on I gave up Macau a long time ago.
Yeah. No, I was right there with you, brother. I was right there with you. And
Tay's not around anymore, so I can't just rag on him.
That's true. Yeah.
Damn.
But by the way, all of you who say that I'm a Tay hater, the reason why I come across as Tay hater is because I still have expectations of him.
Yeah,
I've given up.
We know
I've given up on.
We know not to call you a pain hater. We know that's not where your heart is, despite all of the pain hate that comes out of your mouth sometimes. We know you're not a pain hater.
They hurt me so much. That's why Weiser's biggest flop.
It's just turnabout. Turnabout is fair game. Is there anyone else that I think is actually going to flop harder? It's just I really should put someone from like Kaboom, but I can't. I've lost.
Yeah, I was gonna say, buddy.
If don't
put your money where your mouth is. If you don't think Kaboom's gonna make top 6, make someone flop.
Yeah, do this. Somebody has to flop for them to not make it, right?
Yeah, come on, boys.
It's the same way I have Weiser as biggest flop, because I don't think Payne's gonna win, because
I was pulling. I was the only person I was still pulling for really on Kaboom was House by the end of it. Everyone else I was like, they're already bad, so I kind of I can't predict that to be the case. I'm gonna put Seos. I'm gonna put
the more you love them, the more you'll hate them. Take it from someone who's for years
not to be a Pain fan to avoid this. This is not this. I'm trying to avoid this kind of situation.
The greater the love, the greater the pain. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So this fits my Crashchill narrative as well, as that actually goes so badly that Sales gets benched and they put Crashchill in. So this actually lines up with that.
That would
fairly well.
The most batshit CBLOL timeline of all
I'd be over the moon, man. If that happens,
no.
So I have
give me Crossy
we have. I have Curry as MVP and Sales as biggest flop. I have a complete changing of the support guard here. It's and then 3 mid laners.
Just one step away from becoming a Pain fan, man.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Give up House and he'll join us.
I don't know if I could ever give up House. He's
CBLOL has deteriorated your sanity to such an incredible point.
Okay, that's the awards. These we will return to in the preseason tier list. We will see how they panned out. The last thing we need to do, folks, because we are obviously there's plenty to talk about. The last thing we need to quickly do is talk about week 1 and have a think about what is going to appear in these first 5 games. Loud Pain to start us off, as usual, championship matchup. I mean, Pain probably just wins it because they just show up against Loud and win just to restart the cycle. You know, we've been there before. So I imagine Pain probably just comes in and wins. Fluxu FURIA. Both teams have significant changes. Who do you think is going to land first, I guess? Do you think anyone's going to land particularly strong? We don't need to go super in-depth here, just like a bit of a vibe check.
Gut check, yeah. Give me Fluxu on this one. I think we're going to see the Fu hype train continue to roll.
Okay, I'll take the other side. I'll take FURIA.
Yeah, I would take FURIA as well. I think been bigging up Wiz and ZZK for long enough.
Yeah, my mindset is like, if you've got Koreans, you probably win early.
Wow.
Yeah,
because like, your hands are just better.
Yeah, that is fair.
Let's go and work for the LEC, I guess. Let's go and be a scout for LEC teams. Loss INTZ, I think we could be pretty confident in loss here. I think this is a pretty clear-cut one. I'd be interested to see how INTZ does, because their week 1 was like probably one of the best parts of their entire split last time around.
Literally all downhill from there.
But you know, we've got these new exciting rookies that were popping off from week 1, like Makes and Super Clever wasted no time in clapping heads. Fu as well. So do we think there's a chance for INTZ, or do we think Loss is just going to come back in ready to roll and just steamroll them?
You know what? But both of you are on Los for this, right?
I'm on Loss for sure.
I'm on Los, but it wouldn't surprise me if they lost. Like there could be some teething issues.
Okay, yeah. You know what? If both of you were like heavily Los, I'd have taken INTZ just for the split, because I think INTZ has a shot. Yups is coming off a championship win. You know, Dio just did really, really well. His mechanics are unquestionable. They're all Brazilian. You know, comms are there. I think there's a shot that they can win. But I think it's Los favored.
Sure. For Kaboom Liberty, this is the strong time of the year for Kaboom. It's before the kind of middle of week 2. So, and over Liberty, this is where we see, did anything effective happen for Liberty? Over a long offseason, no playoffs, no international, no changes in any facet.
Well, I think Liberty got nerfed by lane swaps. I don't know whether lane swaps will still be a thing.
Are they going to be the big brain lane swap abusers because they have a vulnerable bot lane and a good coach? 2 good coaches.
No, but then Makes is their carry con, and if Makes gets 2v1'd, like he can't.
Or
scale
if Makes 1v2s.
Well, just. Oh, now I like what he's now. Hang on, hold on. This guy's cooking right now. I mean, Cassante is still playable, is he not?
Oh, yes.
We know Makes plays this champion. Just give him Cassante, give Mikau. I don't know, what's the most, like, please don't hurt me bot laner that's actually playable, that isn't silver or small.
I was
going to say Jinx.
Don't give him Jinx. We've seen his Jinx. Don't give him Jinx.
In lane swap meta, you give him Jinx. No, in lane swap, he'll be fine, right?
Sure, okay, yeah, so he doesn't have to lane. Sure, yeah, so give him Jinx, Cassante top lane swap, and we're golden. So, and maybe Kaboom, who are famously behind the curve on draft and meta innovation. Right. Probably just walk in and try to lane dominate, get lane swapped on, end up 50 CS down, and open the season with an embarrassing loss to Liberty. I could definitely see it. I will take Kaboom. I will vote Kaboom here.
Same.
You know,
I had Kaboom over Liberty.
Yeah. They are better.
They are.
I think Liberty got nerfed by the lane swap. So
yeah. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what's going on down there. And then Cade Stars and Red. This is an interesting one. Red, both relatively no changes, kind of across the two, and their games were always really fun. I think these guys have a really fun matchup against each other. So I have no idea, honestly. Do you guys have a leaning one way or the other?
Ooh, I think Red got a buff with the AD carry changes. brTT can carry harder than usual.
True.
And Smalley is like bottom 2 bot lanes, or bottom 3 bot lanes, I guess.
But he's a scaler, and bot lanes are all about scaling to 4 items and 1v9ing now. So, and if anyone can also abuse, you know, current era macro, it's probably CL's team. So
yeah, I'm gonna pick K-Stars because I think they start the season really strong. I think CL's been cooking all season. He's always cooking. But if anything, I thought
he's kind of a man on a mission. I think he's like he has fully established that, like,
yeah.
I kind of tweeted about this, but like I think he's gonna take the dude route where he's gonna like he's literally, since he landed on this landmass, he has just been pining for a Brazilian wife as a reason to like stay in Brazil. I think in the next 18 months he will find that woman.
Yeah.
Whether he marries her in those 18 months, a different story. But I think he's here for the long haul. I think he loves Brazil. Brazil loves him, and he's gonna get down to business. I think he really feels like he's got something. So I think they'll do well. I think they'll start with a win. I
agree. I think Kate Stars is a team that just keeps improving. So I think they start strong. I think they end even stronger. I give it to Kate Stars.
Yeah, I probably would as well. I think they're just going to be, they're going to come with the starting block better. Okay, so that's us for this episode of Gringos Liberados. Thank you, RMC and 404 for being here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at CBLOL_English. You can find links there to join the Discord, and we will be active in there as usual, posting more content and stream links, and you can watch us on Twitch at CBLOL_English on Twitch from May the something, June the 1st, is it? Is that the first day?
June 1st is the first day, yeah.
June 1st, normal CBLOL time is midday in Brazil, and various variations of that depending on where else you live. Just look on Libety, man. It literally just changes it to whatever your time zone is. It's just so easy. Just go and look there. So,
true.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the 1st, and we are ready for another split of CBLOL. We're ready to get back into the domestic stuff. International pains are over, and we're back into the nonsense that we all love. So we will see you all there.